One of the key sayings on this particular show is you're designed for freedom. Now, if I didn't live as though I was free, I would be lying to you and this show would be a debacle. But because I'd start to choose freedom over fear, it gives me the experience of freedom.
The Tony Bova Show, built by pain, designed for freedom.
On this particular episode of the Tony Bova Show, I'm going to share with you my personal mission, the core values that I live out of, and I'm also going to give you the mission, vision, and values that I've given to my team. The mission, vision, and values that we have set as the cornerstone of the breakthrough program that we've created specifically for high-performing men that want to become the greatest versions of themselves, not only in life, but also in their relationships and inside of their businesses, where they get to the root cause of the subconscious patterns that show up in their life, and they get to actually reflect them from an internal perspective externally to the world. And if you haven't already subscribed to this channel, I'm going to ask you to hit that subscribe button as I continue to divulge valuable pieces of masculinity, relationships, and business for you for free here on my podcast to help give you tremendous amounts of value. And that's my promise to you, that I will show up here consistently for you so that you can start to live a life that you know you're capable of living. As I dive into my mission is to live an extraordinary life of impact, freedom, magical relationships, and abundance. Always finding the good in every situation and dying without regret. Now, I wanted to keep that pretty simple, but there's a lot in there. There's a lot of impact inside of there. And it's short, sweet, and very specific. The clarity around that is so dialed in that one day as I was writing it out, I started to realize, man, this just feels like Tony. This feels like I'm going to make such an impact in this world, especially for men that want to become the great versions. Because that was me. I wanted to become, I was a hunger inside of me where I just couldn't let go of it, where I had to figure out what was happening internally for me and why my life was turning out the way it was, because I was high performing. I would always go out and set out for a goal and I would overcome it. There hasn't been a time that I haven't been able to achieve something in my life. Even if everything fell apart, I was still able to rebuild it and keep moving forward. And as I read you this mission to live an extraordinary life, the feeling I get is remarkable. It gives me tingles as I think about it. And to live with impact, freedom, magical relationships, and abundance. There's so many different directions I can take you on with that. Where what does freedom actually feel like? And what does abundance actually feel like? Because oftentimes it's not the external thing that you're looking for. It's the feeling it's associated with. It's how it makes you feel is the thing that you're actually chasing. Not ever realizing you already have all of it already inside of yourself, completely in whole. Now, the core values that I live out of this are pretty simple. I have 3 of them. Freedom over fear. Now, every decision I make, I've gone through a process where I've been able to figure out, am I making this decision out of fear? Or am I doing it out of love, grace, and freedom? Because if it's out of fear, the answer is already obvious to me. I can't make that decision. At this point, my nervous system won't allow me to. Because I have to live free. Because that's how I was designed to be. One of the key sayings on this particular show is you're designed for freedom. Now, if I didn't live as though I was free, I would be lying to you and this show would be a debacle. But because I'd start to choose freedom over fear, it gives me the experience of freedom. That I'm able to I'm not telling you I don't have fear, but that I'm able to choose freedom over fear because when I see it, I'm able to make a different decision because I have choice. I have intentionality. The second one is be dangerous. Now, what I mean by this isn't be a danger to society. What I mean by dangerous is, me and my best friend would joke around about this. It's like, Bova, we got to be dangerous about this. We got to be so good at this that people are actually concerned about how good we are at it. And whether it was, I think in particular, it was actually, we were talking about starting a chain of storage units. And the whole premise around it was we needed to learn so much about storage units, listen to all the podcasts, read the books, start to execute, find out how we were going to source the finances to be able to put this together, find the deals, and understand all the techniques around it, that we're going to be so dangerous at it that we're going to disrupt the industry. Now, anything I set out to do, I know I have limited bandwidth. I know I have limited time. I know I have limited abilities to be able to go out and do that. So if I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it to the fullest of my capacity. And when I'm dangerous, what that means is that I'm able to protect my family. I'm physically fit. I'm healthy. I'm moving my body. I'm skilled. If you know anything about martial arts, you know that the most skilled use the least amount of energy. That it's almost like effortlessly, like as they're rolling around with you or when you're grappling with them. It's almost like they're just dead weight on you because they know exactly where to put their body and when to put their body and their reflexes. So they don't expend any energy. They're not exhausted afterwards because they're dangerous at it. And so they don't need to hold over their skill over you because they're confident in their abilities. Now, my third core value is never concede. And what I mean by never concede is it's not being stubborn. It's not being a jerk. It's not never being wrong. It's that you have the ability to meet life with grace, dignity, and love, but also you don't concede to the fear of what comes up in your life or the failures that show up or the people that show up in your life doubting your ability to do something. You know, if I'm challenged on something that feels core to me, like it's something of integrity for me to stand and uphold, which I would say authenticity, the ability to speak what I believe and hold my own opinion. I'm not going to concede because it offends you. If it upsets you, the fact that what I believe is different than what you believe, that's a personal issue for you. And I'm not going to concede to your feelings because then I would be conceding to my own feelings and you become superior to me. You have the right to not listen to this channel. You have the right to not listen to me or to turn me off. I'm not going to show up at your door knocking on it, telling you that you have to believe in my opinion. But you have a choice to watch this video right now. And I'm not going to stop making videos because maybe you get in my comments and you get upset about it and you disagree with me. I actually commend you for doing that. I hope that you do that because I think open debate is important because there's no way to change minds without debating different sides. So I will never concede to my belief system because then I'm going to allow somebody else to dictate the outcomes of my life. Now I'm going to jump into my team's mission, vision, and values as we've been building this breakthrough program for high-performing men that are struggling with manipulation, frustration, rejection, and disrespect in their relationships, inside of their businesses, inside of their life in general. Maybe it has childhood wounding that has shown up in their life with their parents, or maybe in other relationships that have been toxic, or things that have happened to them when they were younger that they don't even want to share or talk about. But very specifically, and I just told my team this past week, actually, that our mission as a team is to surgically lead unique, high-performing men out of survival mind into their core identity as creators at the highest standard. The reason that we put that in there is because we are surgically good at identifying where the core belief is showing up and helping you overcome that in a way that you get to experience something different on the other side. Moving from that belief system that you have the ability to control your life based upon the decisions that you make. And, you know, for the longest time, I would go to a Presbyterian church and they would preach Calvinism, that we are all sinners and there's nothing that we can do about it. And so therefore we should just succumb to the fact that we're broken and that we need Jesus. I can no longer buy that narrative. Because what that did for me was it said I was powerless over my decisions and I should just let sin breed upon itself inside of me. And it was like doubt, shame, and guilt manifesting inside of myself over and over again. And there's this dark narrative that never actually allowed me to feel free. I never felt connected to God. I've never felt more connected to God than I do right now. Being able to become a creator, knowing that I'm divinely connected, is one of the most incredible experiences you will ever get to fulfill in your life. If we can help show other men how to do that, I feel like it's incumbent upon me to do that because I would be stealing from you if I didn't get on this camera and share with you exactly how I got to experience this. It would be like I was a thief hiding a gift. and at the highest standards. I live my life based off standards, how I eat, how I talk, how I show up in this world. And I expect the same from my team. And I expect the same from the men that I lead and the men that I work with, because I want them to experience absolute freedom in their life. And that as we start to move past the mission into what the vision actually looks like, if we can do this with precision, this particular mission, then our vision is to create a small army of elite men that lead their bodies, their boners, their bloodlines, their businesses, and their brotherhoods with precision. That it creates an impact that ripples out through more than 1 million men. And that it will actually vibrate into a societal shift. You've heard me talk over and over again about the small things and how they turn into the big things. Well, the ripple effect is that we work with one man at a time. And as he starts to overcome the things that are holding him back, he will share those things with another man. And as he starts to share that with another man will experience that and get to share that with another man. And the ripple effect will change society, because it is my truest belief that we are more empowered as men than you actually believe right now. And that we have more control to dictate society towards good, to experience love, grace, and peace, to experience the fullness that life has to offer, with extraordinary relationships that are not disconnected, because the quality of our life is definitely determined by the quality of our relationships. And then you'll get to experience abundance in your business, in your finances, in your spirituality, that will ripple into your children. I talked about the 5 B's. And they're kind of funny, right? Like, I'm talking about bodies, boners, bloodlines, businesses, and brotherhood. But, that one in particular, boner. Like, if you can start to control how you see your sexuality as a man, and you have control over it, that makes you a very safe man. It's going to change your relationship if you start to understand how much control you have over that. And that it's not just leading you away or astray, making the decisions for you, that you actually have the consciousness inside of yourself to figure out how to be self-controlled. For the longest time, I thought I was incapable of it, but it's not true, because I've been there and I can tell you on the other side that you have full control over that. That alone will absolutely change your relationship. But when we start talking about our bodies, our boners, our bloodlines, our businesses, and our brotherhood, you can start to see what I'm talking about here. You can start to see the ripple effect that's going to come out of it. And then with our core values for my team, what I shared with them was radical growth. And what I mean by radical growth is that they are moving towards being the greatest version of themselves. Not set to a standard of what I think they should be, but with the standard that they want to become. And if they don't want to remain inside of our organization any longer, that's totally fine. They're welcome to leave. But it won't be because they don't want to become the greatest versions of themselves, because that is one of our core values. And it's one of the things that I check for before we invite anybody into the team. And so that they take responsibility for themselves. They're not defensive. They don't show up and try to blame others. It's not just a paycheck for them, that they start to understand that what they're doing here is meaningful, and that they want to become so skilled at what they do, they become surgical at it. Our second core value, being meaningful impact, where it's not about the money, that it's about the impact, the meaning, and the value that we bring at the highest standard, that comes before anything else, and that the money will follow. When we start to pay attention to one man at a time, and how we are going to impact his life, and how he's going to live his life extraordinarily different than other men, so that he can show other men that it's possible. When they get behind that value, where they start to understand that we are doing far more here than just making a bunch of money, that we are here to drive impact, and that money is fuel, and that it helps us put out our message even more, that they get behind the vision of that, which they would get behind the leader of that, which is me, where they want to step out into uncomfortable situations so that they can actually implement their skill set at a high capacity. Number 3 is extreme ownership. And I know a lot of high impact teams have this as their core value. I mean, Jocko was famous for initially creating this, but it speaks so well, not only to our core values, but to our message and to what we believe in masculinity being extreme ownership, that things don't just show up in your life by accident. They're not bad luck, but that you have the opportunity to meet them as lessons and overcome them, where you get to show up in a way where you're not defensive, where you are able to own the mistakes that you make, overcome them, and keep moving forward. Now, I very specifically told my team that defensiveness will not be tolerated. I don't care how skilled you are, that if you're disrespectful inside of our organization, if you are not able to meet the standards of respect and be able to have dignity for not only your team members, but our clients and the men that we serve, then you'll be asked to leave. No questions asked. I don't care how much money that you're bringing in revenue. It doesn't matter to me. That the impact that we're making is far more important to me, and that you will own and your own radical growth and the own impact that you're creating inside of this organization. And then the fourth is a high impact team, meaning that this team has a high value, has high standards, has the ability to work almost as an orchestra together, that they are precise and are able to handle their own skill set in a way that is going to be like a dance, where we're intricately working together, creating momentum and synergy that is going to continue to put our message in a way that's really going to drive impact. Now, if you can see that these core values all align with the vision and the mission and the clarity around what it is that we're doing, it's so important for you to know that as you're listening here, because part of what I'm doing here on this particular show is to bring impact and meaning in a way for you where you get to live an extraordinary life inside of your relationships, your business, and your personal development, your relationship with yourself, your relationship with God, the things that bring wholeness to life. You know, whether or not you become a client of ours or you work with us is not relevant to me, but that if you get value out of this, that you somehow this changes your life because you hear the darkest places that I've been throughout my life and how I've been able to overcome it and rebuild it, where I didn't come from a lot, but I was able to create a lot, that you know that you're capable of doing that too. And then you start to take steps to increase your standards, increase your executions, and start to live a life of beauty, of belief, and extraordinary relationships. That's all that I care about. Now, I appreciate you listening to this episode. If you have not subscribed to this channel, please hit that subscribe button. I will continue to drop valuable content to you. That's my promise to you. And I want to remind you that you were built by pain, but you were designed for freedom.